Hello, everyone. Today we are showing you a special episode I recorded with my good friend Stephanie. She's a dedicated mental health therapist specializing in maternal mental health. And we've been working on a project together for over a year and a half now, and we're excited to share our journey and insights with you. Stephanie will also discuss her experiences, why she chose to focus on supporting moms, and the importance of addressing mental health in the postpartum period. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. So today we decided with my good friend Stephanie to do a bit of announcement about what we do and what's the project that we're working on for like almost a year and a half. But first, Stephanie, could you please introduce yourself?
Absolutely, and thank you. So, my name is Stephanie, and I'm a mental health therapist in Syracuse, New York, in the States. And I focus primarily on working with the maternal and mental health population.
Great. And me myself, I am Margarita, and I've just finished like last year. I finished my master's in addiction psychology, but I am a cognitive behavioral therapist trainee. And I've been working in the field, like reading and researching mainly because I'm not a mom myself for almost 3 years. I've been just reading and speaking to a lot of women who are struggling in the postpartum period. Could you also please share, like, why did you decide to do this specific job in the field of maternal health?
Yeah. So, I was working so right now I own a group practice. I've got three people that work underneath me, and we all focus in on this area. I mean, we see other people too, but that our primary focus is working with the perinatal population. But a number of years ago, I was working for somebody else, and I just kind of saw whoever came in and dealt mostly with anxiety and depression. But I knew that at some point I wanted to branch out and do my own thing. And I kind of was doing some research around how to have like good best business practices, how to have a thriving private practice. And one of the things that I heard a lot about was niching, having a niche, having
Mhm.
a specialized area. And I never really given much thought to that. And through these mediums that I was kind of learning about this, one of the things that I was encouraged to do was to think about who was on my current caseload that I really enjoyed working with, who kind of lit me up clinically, when they came in the door. And it was the moms. It was the
Mhm.
moms. I'm a mom. I've got two kids, and I was past what I would have considered the postpartum period, but I still remembered what those struggles
Yeah.
felt like. And so not only did I feel like I had something to bring to the table as a therapist, but I had a little bit of my own kind of mom experience under my belt too. So I found that really intriguing, and I got additional training because I didn't want to just say I did this. I wanted to do it earnestly and get additional training, and I've done that and continue to do that, and the rest is history.
Amazing. And I just think because you said like niche, it's just it's funny because the maternal world it's thought as a niche, like the problems around it, but it's not a niche when we speak about that. A lot of women are mothers, and we're half of the
Mm,
population. So a lot of
right.
more care should be put on the maternal world overall.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And in my community, there was only a couple of other therapists that I
Mhm.
knew at the time that did the work, specifically with the maternal population. And it was like, I only found them because I was like intentionally going out and seeking, does anybody else do this work in my
Yeah.
area? So I can't imagine being a postpartum mom really struggling and having to deep dive to find somebody who knew exactly how to help me.
Yeah, exactly. When I started working in this field, I mean, just like researching and speaking to a lot of moms here in Bulgaria. So
Mhm.
we're going to go to that, but here is a bit different when it comes to people seeking help for mental health
Yeah.
specifically. But there was only one other therapist that I found in the whole Bulgaria, so the
Right.
whole country, that was explaining, like explicitly saying, I work with moms and I help moms going through the postpartum period with postpartum depression and anxiety. So
Yeah.
we thought, like, oh my God, there is no one here. And So after we founded the company Momsanity, my colleagues, one of her one she experienced something like postpartum depression, and she was really let me say it that way, because here the medical professionals also are lacking um, practice, and like they don't know how to react when a mom is giving birth. I've spoken to a lot of women and they are not professionalists. They don't know how to care for her, or they're like the midwives here are saying stuff like, uh, get it together. You're a mom now and you're in the hospital crying. So I had so many women saying that. So I think
Wow.
here that's why like there's this cultural difference, because people don't accept that you can be sad. This
Yeah.
is weakness when it's not,
Yeah.
definitely, but so here
Yeah.
people don't seek help. They don't want to seek help because they feel ashamed that they need help.
Yeah. I've been encouraged. It's in my work, it's been probably about 50-50 with the medical professionals, those who are like really supportive, on board, open to hearing what I have to say because I spend a lot of time with the clients versus they have, relatively
Yeah.
short appointments with them.
Yeah.
And then others that won't return a call,
Hmm.
even though, I'm trying to coordinate care for their
Yeah.
patient. So yeah, it's about 50-50. So
So I want to go forward. So about how we met, because I think it's an amazing thing that the internet gives us the availability of seeking people all over the world.
mhm.
And as I said here, there were not many people doing this, and also the woman that was doing this, she thought that we are a competition, so she didn't want any to be a part of our project. And I started going on LinkedIn, just looking with keywords like postpartum care, postpartum maternal health, maternal therapist, and you popped up. I've actually written like a couple of people when I wrote to you as well, and you were the first one to be responsive, even though you're not really on LinkedIn. Now when I
No,
think about it,
right? And that's the thing that just boggles my mind because I do next to nothing on LinkedIn. And so the fact that you found me at all and then it just happened to be, within the window of time that I just happened to check it is
yeah,
yeah, pretty amazing.
I agree, and our first meeting was really fun. Like I had really fun, so I thought like, okay, this I can sense like that we can work together even from the first meeting. So I'm really happy that you agreed to be part of this project, and this is how we started working to basically write the whole self help program
Hmm.
that we aim to have in a mobile app.
Yeah.
As a self help therapy for women who are experiencing difficulties after birth,
Yeah.
and we've been doing it for a year and a half almost. So it's amazing how times goes by, and we still are like almost hearing each other every week.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think what the thing that I didn't expect was that we developed a friendship
Yeah,
around this, and not we're in different parts of the world, we're in different phases of our life, yet we have, I mean, this joint passion for supporting this group of people, but also have just found other things that we have in common and can connect on, both personally and professionally, and it's
yeah,
been a real joy.
yeah, for me too. And I also like I learned a lot from you when it comes to maternal health, definitely. And the fact that we're doing the program in Bulgarian and English, it was so helpful that you popped and helped with the English wise, because you know I think I know English, like how to write it, but also like the cultural differences when it comes to how to express yourself, like
Hmm.
writing sentences and stuff. It was
Yeah.
really helpful. um, and I just wanted to say, I remember one of the first calls that we had, and we already structured the fact that we're gonna go topic by topic. I just I wanted to hear everything because it was really interesting for me for you to share about how, because you work mainly with moms, and that's so much more valuable. Here, people, as I said, don't know where to go, so we just needed this expertise, and I think we did a great job. We'll see how it goes, of course, because we created it.
Yeah.
We think that.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. So I mean, I'm just kind of now mentally reminiscing about things. So first of all, I've probably traumatized you with just stories about motherhood because it's hard. And for me, I would do it all over again because I think it's worth it. But there are parts of it that are hard. There are parts of it that are scary. There are parts of it that are messy and gross. And I, especially around labor delivery, breastfeeding, diapers, like all that kind of stuff. And I hope I haven't scared you away from doing doing it. But also, like I've just taken delight, and I'm amazed at your ability to speak and use English the way that you do. And there's been education in both directions, but even things like some of the sayings that I remember one sticking out of saying, "Oh, it drives a wedge," and you're like, "What does that mean?" I was like, "Oh, it creates a divide or it creates a separation." But even just little sayings in English that
Yeah.
me makes sense because it's just part of our language, right? Not realizing it doesn't quite translate. So that's kind of been part of fun. It's just fun, like it's just been
Yeah.
fun and amazing. But I think we have done a good job. I think obviously it's easy for us to say that, but now we're kind of at a place where we got to see if and here's another one. The proof is in the pudding, which just sorry, which means, right, like is it going to actually impact the population and give the results that we're looking for? And
Yeah.
that's kind of the turning point that we are with this
Hmm.
content.
Yeah, and just following what you said earlier, I want to say that in the beginning, when I started doing this and we're speaking to you and other moms, I was really scared. Like, I thought that maybe having a kid is not the best decision for me. But I think now I'm more like I can't wait at some point to have a kid,
Yeah.
because for all those conversations, it's not the issue that you have a kid. It's the issue that the system is not supporting you correctly and does not give you education and does not provide you with the right expectations. So it's a whole different topic. It's not about the difficulties having a kid. It's more of like the shock and surprise that women are experiencing. I think that's the thing that triggers me the most is the fact that it's the same thing. Everyone is saying the same thing. It's a pattern, but it's been for a while now, and it really needs to change.
That's what, that's such an amazing point because and this is what just makes you so special. This is turning into a love fest, but this is what makes you so special because you're able to through your work and your own insight and your just own level of intelligence and old soul nature is even though you're young and spunky too, but I think that you're able to hear that story. It's not like the gross and the exhausting and the hard and all that is easier to navigate when you have proper supports and resources in place. And that's one of the main things that's missing for those that are struggling. And that's the a void that we're trying to fill with this project.
Yeah.
You feel left less alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's the other thing that really I really want. I know that all of us in Momsanity just wants moms to not feel alone, because that's the main thing that they say, like they don't feel understood and they feel alone in this journey.
Yeah.
And I just had a call earlier with another mom, and she was like, we gathered with some friends and everyone just started like feel we were all down, and we were like, why are we feeling down? We have a family, we're happy, we are having a job and everything. And at some point one started just saying like, I can't make it anymore, I'm so exhausted. And everyone just started, because everyone thinks that the other is doing it and you're not. So
Right. Right. And we were kind of talking about this a little bit before we started recording, was just how in different parts of the world, different communities within, like that, there's more acceptance to and to people struggling than in other spaces and places, right?
yeah.
So it's okay to say I'm struggling, I need help in some communities, and in others it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. There's a lot more stigma around it. And so that also is very isolating, where maybe you'd be willing to say you need help if you felt like you would get it, you would be heard, and then you would get it.
Yeah, and if you're not being judged, like
Yeah.
I think that's why currently we are at the phase of, right, like testing our program, but we're doing it manually. And when I send, because here in Bulgaria I have the availability to send to more moms that are after birth and have active symptoms of depression, and the fact is that most of the women don't want to accept our help for free.
Mhm.
Um, because they're shocked by the fact, and they just feel they're going to be judged even though it's anonymous. So there's a huge barrier happening.
Yeah.
And I hypothesize that if we start testing with people elsewhere in Western Europe, because I don't think there's a huge difference in East Europe, but maybe Western Europe and the US, there will
Yeah.
be a difference because people talk about mental health.
Right. So right there's and not to downplay that there's still stigma, but there are just some places where it's a little bit more widely accepted to talk out loud about it, right? And to ask for help. And so yeah, so that's why we are in right this phase of asking for people who would be willing to look at our materials and um, and provide feedback on it.
Hmm.
And yeah, so is this the part where we do our shameless plug? Where we say, "Come help us. We'd love
Yeah.
to have people that who have um, had a child recently and are struggling, or I don't even want to just say struggling because there's a lot of the material in there that just for the normal ups and downs,
Yeah,
typical ups and
exactly.
downs, like there's a lot of value in it too. But for people who would be interested in reading through it, it's gonna be a win-win. They're gonna get the benefit of the content, and we're gonna get the benefit of their feedback. So
Exactly. And
yeah,
it's more like if someone out there want to test and see if she has any symptoms or something, and then she needs resources, we have it right now, and we
yeah,
just want to test it. But also, everyone can ask questions at the moment. It's more free. It's not in an app as well also. So we have this connection more now, I think,
yeah.
because with the women here, some of them have sent emails and we've provided back, and you know who's behind the email. So it's a testing phase, but from the women here in Bulgaria, they really enjoy it. And one thing that struck me is that even the little things are really helping. So it's like they don't have any support, so even a little support that can be provided to their everyday life, it will
Yeah.
be enough. Even though like I think the whole program is amazing, it's also like the fact that because there are not many solutions that niched for mental health in the postpartum period,
Hmm.
I really believe that it can be helpful. Even though it's not going to be perfect, probably it can be definitely helpful.
Well, it's certainly not going to hurt, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think so right now, if somebody's were to participate in this, they're getting like a hard copy of, or like a PDF file
Yeah.
of the content. So and but I think we divided it up and structured it in a way that it's really small chunks at a time, so it shouldn't be overwhelming, and that you can integrate it into you know all the other stuff that you're doing, right, throughout the day when you're raising a new baby. And so yeah,
Yeah.
that's the hope, is that we're gonna provide material that's going to be helpful to folks.
Hmm. And the current feedback that I have is like it's so easy to read even while breastfeeding or during night when the baby's sleeping, just for a little, because it's
Yeah,
really digestible as content.
yeah,
So we really want to have like a product that it's adjusted to the needs of the chaotic life that a new
yeah,
mom has,
yeah.
which I think is quite difficult.
Should we talk a little bit about the structure, like how it's structured?
Yeah.
Go for
Yeah.
it.
Sure.
That was me asking you to talk about it. By we, I mean you.
Okay, so there is we've provided the content for three big topics that we've structured in three modules, and the first module is about your body and your physiological needs. So the basic need that a mom needs, overall person that needs. And it's sub groups with 4 different topics, sessions, we call it sessions. For it, so in the body we have sleep as a session, we
Yeah.
have eating patterns, and then we have hormones and breastfeeding.
Yeah.
So all the 4 things that we thought, and the evidence says, as I researched a lot.
You,
uh,
oh my gosh, and I'm just gonna rag on you because you were the research girly. Like a lot of, not that I haven't done training and read research through that, but a lot of my feedback was based on actively doing the work
mm,
with the moms, and then you're coming in hot with like, actual research that supports it, and so it was a good pairing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm an academic girly, and I love evidence based stuff. If it says
Yeah.
evidence based, I love it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
really love the fact that even though after we wrote it, I started reading more articles, and it just supported the hypothesis that we have, that these things are really important for new moms,
Hmm.
especially when it comes to eating, the different types of eating. Women don't know that
Yeah.
they need to think about this stuff, even though it's, I thought that like usually everyone would know like how they eat. Oh, that's not
Hmm.
true, because when you're a mom, you only think about the baby, so your mental load is only on that, and
Yeah.
you don't actually, you're not aware that you don't eat as much, you don't drink water as much, and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Well, and I'm going to interject there a little bit and say, when you're a new mom, it's impressed upon us that you should only be thinking about the baby,
Yeah.
that is now your number one priority, and everything else, including yourself, you know, goes to
Hmm.
a back burner. And so and we're saying, no, no, that's a big part of like your well-being is important too. And starting out with the body, I think is huge, because if you're not functioning as best as you can, we get it. You're postpartum, like it's not going to look perfect. But if you're not physically functioning as best as you can, none of the other stuff, right, it is going to be helpful or supportive. I always say it's like building a house on sand. If the foundation
Hmm.
isn't strong,
Yeah.
it's going to crumble.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like it's the pyramid, Maslow's pyramid. Yeah,
Yes,
the
yes.
basic
Oh, there you
needs.
are. There's that academic piece coming in.
Yeah.
The hierarchy of needs. Yes. Yeah. So,
And I just wanted to say also that oh, I forgot. I forgot, but we were saying that the different sessions we have, and the breastfeeding part is also
yeah.
really important, even though for me this is the hardest one, because I'm not a mom, and I've never thought about breastfeeding and how it feels, but it was so amazing for me to be educated on this topic, because
Hmm.
so many different things are happening there. So you want to breastfeed, but you can't. You don't want to breastfeed, but people are judging you. So there are so many things happening there, as a affecting you, affecting your mental health, affecting your judgment about, am I being a good mom, because everyone
Right.
has something to say.
Well, I mean, it's such a loaded topic. And why? But it is. And to just to acknowledge that we also included information for those who chose not to or can't breastfeed. We didn't want to just talk about breastfeeding without talking about the other side of that coin, which is the people who don't for whatever reason, and hold space for what's going on for them mentally and emotionally too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's I don't think we could have made a good program if we only had just breastfeeding without the formula feeding or different variations. And
Yeah.
this goes to our next module, which is about motherhood myths. Yeah, motherhood myths.
Myths. Yep.
I just
Yeah.
said meat.
Yeah.
And there we have, for instance, the first session is for connecting with your baby, and the myth about that you connect instantly, and the feelings that you need to feel joy instantly
Yeah.
when you see for the first time your baby, which is also a myth.
Yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
this,
Yeah.
you've
Yeah.
told me, I remember specifically, like when you gave birth and you were seeing this slimy little thing, you were like,
Yeah.
am I supposed to feel instant love?
I did. And my first thought really was, thank God that's over. Well, it was not like angels coming from the heavens and, with their harps. And like, I really thought like I was supposed to feel a certain way. And I was just glad I was done with labor. That was it. Relief. And then I was like, oh yeah, there's a baby, and I remember asking, my daughter's father, like, did I look happy? Like and because I was afraid. So this is like the mind
Oh,
twist of it
yeah,
all,
yeah,
that the other people in the room were going to see that I wasn't immediately elated and that they were going to have thoughts and feelings about it. Right. Yeah. Well, I'm splayed
yeah.
out on a table. But yeah, but those myths, like there's so many shoulds that come in motherhood that are from external, it's from your peers, it's from your doctors, it's from the internet, it's from your mother-in-law, your mother, right? And like there's so many shoulds that are and so we wanted to say, kind of call some of those out.
Yeah.
Those myths, those things that women feel like somehow they're less than if they don't, you know, fall in
Hmm.
line with these myths. So yeah.
Yeah, and our next session is for partnership or social support because there are a lot of difference happening if you're with a partner, and there is also a myth that the baby can make your relationship stronger and you're bonded more with your partner.
Yeah.
I think it always depends on the context, on the person, and on the child. So how it behaves.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, and that I've never loved my partner more, which may be true. Which may be true for some, but it's not always true. I can
Mhm.
tell you that first year for a lot of reasons was one of the hardest with my partner. And when I'm working with a new mom, we come in and often we're talking about kind of the acute distress, the exhaustion and the mental strife and the anxiety or depressive symptoms. And I know one of the clues that that's starting to resolve is when they come in and they start griping about their partner. And I go, oh, good. The good news is, right, is that the depression and or the anxiety or something, it's starting to be a little bit better managed, because now we're coming in and we're talking about something that's very common and very normal, which is this transition within your partnership.
Yeah.
And that's very typical, but it's very difficult. And because you're both coming from two different families of origin and you have different ideas about what the roles are supposed to be, and again we're going to bring in the culture thing. Different cultures have different
Mhm.
ideas for how the father should be, how the mother. Yeah, so yeah, that definitely needed to be in there for sure.
Yeah, and it sounds even like not possible if you ask me. Like without having struggles, because you're practically building a whole new life for you as a person, being a parent, and
Yeah,
in the couple, like having new rules, especially what you said, like how to raise the kid. That's gonna be a difficult topic. I imagine for myself, like how I want to raise my kid, and that we need to have a consensus happening all the time.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No. Throw that out the window. You're not going to have consensus all the time,
Yeah,
right? Right. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Um,
so yeah. And that's indefinite. And so one of the things that I always say is you're all what people are like, is this still considered postpartum? And I always make the joke, once you have a child, you are just
postpartum.
indefinitely postpartum, right? Because I, as a parent of a 14 and 11-year-old, right, there are still new transitions, there's still new changes, there's still emotional and mental distress, there's still disagreements with their dad, right, all that's, and coming at it from two different directions. And so, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Um,
it's no joke. It's the hardest job in the world. Very rewarding, hardest job.
that's why solutions like ours is needed, and more and more and more and more people working on helping moms and dads in this field, in
Yeah.
the postpartum world.
Right?
So
I'm going to need the next app. I'm going to need Moms of Teens Sanity, because that's what that is the phase that I am entering, and right, that's where I need support.
yeah, I think that's the one thing that I can definitely resonate with being a difficult teenager. I was a horrible teenager, and my brother was such a chill guy. But I am
Mhm.
also a girl that was really ambitious and really emotional. So everything was too much for me when I was 14.
Yeah.
So my
Yeah.
mom couldn't bear it. And now when I speak to my friends that are moms, and they're like, so she started like just like being really rude one day when I did something or get into her room, and I'm like, be prepared, I guess, because it can get really messy at some point, but then it will be fine. It's
Yeah,
also hormones. It's
yeah,
actually a lot of hormones happening there.
yeah,
A lot of insecurities, a lot of being a teenager is hard.
yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know what? I appreciate this is now turning into my therapy session. I appreciate that feedback because I forget sometimes how hard it is to be
It
14.
I think it's like being a baby when people are saying like everything is so overwhelming for them. They're exploring the new world. Well, when you're a teenager, it's again exploring new world because now you have conscience and now you have insecurities. Now you have all those factors that are making you feel sad,
Yeah,
anxious, stuff like that that you haven't felt before that much.
yeah,
So I think
yeah,
that's why it's also really overwhelming phase
yeah,
of life.
yeah. Yeah.
But
Wow.
now
All
we're
right.
going off
We
topic.
digress. This is yes, and this is what we do anytime we get together, right? We go
Yeah.
and then we come back. So yeah,
The third session in module two
yeah.
is for your new body, which is also a really interesting topic for me when I start reading all those
Mhm.
things. Even though like moms didn't know that their hair will fall out, they didn't know a lot of stuff, so they were really shocked, and we wanted to provide more information that this is happening, this is normal if it's happening, and how to be body neutral. As we
Yes.
said to each other, body positivity can be also toxic in this world,
Hmm.
because I won't accept. I don't like if I'm getting fatter. I won't like myself, and I don't know how to be positive. But on the other hand, if something's happening with my body and it's changing,
Yeah.
I can be neutral because it's moving, and I can just be
Yeah.
happy that it's moving and it's doing his job. That's the most important thing. So I
Yeah.
think that's what we wanted to do with this session, is just make the mom realize that she has a new body because the body did all this thing, which is delivering the baby.
Yeah. Yeah. I just chuckled because of how you said that, like when my body's getting fatter. And it's even that I'd be like, is there a softer way we could say that? My therapist brain just turned on. Yes, right. Everything changes. Everything changes. Your brain, your relationships, your home, your body, like everything changes, right? And it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that we don't maintain some of what's old, but we can't deny that there's a lot of stuff that is different. And do we how do we accept the changes? And I think that's one of the biggest struggles
Hmm.
is accepting that. And again, there's a lot of stuff that we hear from the outside of, the celebrities on magazines. That's like, oh, body after baby. And I got, they're
Yeah.
in a bikini 3 weeks after, and like all that kind of stuff. And that's really hard. And that's not typical. That's not normal. And I have a therapist that works for me that specializes in eating disorders. And so she has such a gift of marrying these two struggles of working with the maternal mental health population, which she also specializes in, and then the body image stuff that comes up because it's big.
Yeah. I as I struggle with body image and stuff like that, I realized looking at the internet and being really influenced by influencers who has like a hot body and stuff, that
Yeah,
they engage only in fitness and diets, and I don't have the time for that, so it's normal that I don't have this body.
right.
And it's going to be hard for anyone who is getting becoming a teenager and a girl right now, because it's
Mhm.
getting worse when it comes to eating disorders. If you ask me, like doing the stats and everything, it's worse.
Yeah,
And I've talked with moms that have struggled a lot, and they've been having an eating disorder before in their teenagers, for instance, and
yes.
then now again because they can't accept this new body.
Yeah, so I've had that before on my caseload where it's some where some people who have had and are in recovery of an eating disorder, and then all the changes that happen in their body with pregnancy and postpartum is very activating for them,
Hmm.
and so they have to kind of go back to that work again, you
Yeah.
know. So yeah, so all right,
And
now that we've
talking
brought the
about
room down,
talking about accepting, I would go like
yes,
smoothly to the next session, which is about becoming a mom,
yeah,
which is about changing your values, because you need to change your values because you now have different priorities. And also grieving about the old self. So it's normal to
Yes.
grieve because you will change your habit, not habits, but leisures and like stuff you want to do during the day, stuff you're interested in. You don't have the same hobbies probably because you don't have the time, and you need to grieve about those things, and it's fine. This is what we talk about in our last
Yeah.
lesson in module 2.
Yeah. And it's not, we don't like throw it all out the window, right? We recognize that there's that you're in a season, especially initially postpartum, where like so much of that is going to be different. But we are also hopeful, encouraging that over time, like there are parts of that that you can incorporate back into your life and reintegrate and maintain parts of the old self, right? And merging that with the new self. But it's going to look different. And there's anytime there's a change or a loss, there's grief associated with that.
Yeah,
And so we name that. And yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But
And
figuring out kind of the new you.
exactly,
Yeah.
which goes to the next module, which is the new me.
Which is the new
and,
me.
and we start there with our first session, which is anxiety. So it's more like, I would say this whole module, it's more about having strategies that are really practical now when you go back to your new life, with more information and psychoeducation and strategies for accepting your new you. Now it comes because I would say that every person on the whole world probably has have felt anxious at some point. So it's, I think it's really important to have those strategies, like knowing to know when you have an automatic thoughts that it reacts with to your body and you behave differently. So you need to start thinking to catch those thoughts, not to like stop them, but you need to know when they're coming and be aware of how to, why your body is reacting that way. I think being
Yeah.
aware is the first step of feeling better. So it's not panicking, oh my body is reacting. It's more like I
Yeah.
know why it's reacting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then this is first session.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think so much of and even kind of how I approach my work with clients has shifted a little bit around this over time. Is I think so much of what we do is say, oh, I'm experiencing mental or emotional distress and I want it to go away. And a lot of my work has shifted toward how can we change our relationship with it? Because here's the thing: life is hard, parenting is hard, and I think it's probably um, unrealistic to say I'm never going to have anxiety, like you just said, right? We've all experienced it. I'm never going to have a sad thought, or and or an intrusive thought or whatever. And so it's like, how can we change our relationship with those universal experiences in life and in postpartum, as opposed to trying to make them go away, because that's
Yeah.
futile. It's not going to happen. Sorry. If
Um,
only, right? I always say, if I was a therapist who could do that for people, I'd have a line out my door
yeah.
forever, right?
And you have like a stick and be like, okay, next.
Yeah. Oh, right here. You mentioned it. I'm right here. I have my magic wand right next to me.
Oh, okay.
There we go. If only, right? It's just plastic. It's just a toy. So,
um,
uh,
and because you said it's really hard, I just thought like the next session is about boundaries, but also I thought while after we did it, after we wrote it and everything, I realized that so many moms have complaints about like they lack boundaries, especially after the first kid, if they have to, because
mm,
they are learning after the first kid that they actually need to set those boundaries and they don't know how and they're shocked. And then after the next kid, they know, but in the beginning, it's really hard. And
yeah.
I wonder if it's a late, like the session for boundaries is the third module. And I don't know if it's late or not, but definitely it's needed there.
Well, you know what? Like, that's why we need people to participate, and they can tell
Yeah,
us this would have
exactly.
been helpful sooner in the process, right? Or in the app. But for sure, that's something that needs to happen, and you'll never, and even starting in pregnancy, really, the people that feel entitled to offer you their unsolicited opinion, the people that feel entitled to your time, to access to your new baby, your child, your home, And so boundaries are paramount. They are necessary. And for some people, maybe they've had loose boundaries. Maybe the stakes didn't feel as high, so they didn't really feel like they had to have boundaries or enforce boundaries. Now we have a baby, and those maternal instincts kick in, and those mama bear instincts kick in. And now it's not just about you. You want to protect your child from the nosy aunt,
Hmm.
or the intrusive cousin. And so, yeah, that's where those boundaries
Yeah.
are required.
And uh, the next session, I'm going to go to the next session because I have a lot of things about boundaries that pops up.
Yeah,
But
I know, right? We could probably do 10 podcasts about boundaries.
yeah. The next section was interesting also because we separated in two. Either one option is that you're going back to work after your maternity leave ends, or the second one is that you don't want to go back to work or you've never worked. But we talk about going back to yourself. So
Yeah.
going back to those things that made you, not only a mom, but also a woman and a mom. So I think it's more adjusting your new life, but also making even new hobbies or going back to old. It doesn't matter. It's also having this time for yourself,
Yeah.
because we talk about there in both sessions about parental burnout, and I always think about one of my friends that said like, I just wanted to be perfect, so I forgot about myself. Like I lost myself in being a mom, and
Hmm.
I think that's probably a really often occurrence.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and
And so then those kids go, they launch, and they fly from the nest, right? And then the mom's like, I don't know who I am or what to do with myself. So we want to nip that in the bud by trying to let people know, no, it's important to be a person outside of your role as a mom, whether that's in the workplace or outside of the workplace or both, right? It's important to have that. And then also, again, recognizing and naming how maintaining those roles in addition to your role as parent, it's a juggling act. Yeah.
yeah, and we also talk about separation anxiety when you go out there being yourself, even if at work or you want to go jogging outside the park
Yeah,
and leaving
sure.
your kid for the first time.
Yeah.
There are so many topics. Now, when we like in the way of speaking about our program, there are so many topics that are so important in this field, like just
Yeah.
accepting to be a parent. I can't
Yeah.
imagine.
Well, and we really try to cover it all, but I mean, I was kidding, but not really, that we could probably take each one of these topics and do, you know,
Yeah.
hours of content on it, and
Hmm.
right, because they're so nuanced. And but we really try to at minimum touch on everything, you
Yeah.
know. We do.
And the last session is basically a wrap up. So I think we wanted to have like a as a real structured therapy program. You need to have a wrap up at the end. You need to reflect. You need to summarize in a really like summarize for the patient or client. Like, so we did this and that, and you learn and you said this and this and that. Am I getting it right? And then as a client or the person who reads this needs to think about, did I do this? Did I actually understood it? Did I use it correctly? And then what's your main takeaway? I think it's really important to have a summary in front of you, like visualized.
Yeah.
And at the end, I think I'm not gonna actually share that much because I think we have really good
No spoilers.
techniques at the end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But you're right. Like with any good therapist has been taught like that you need to have a termination process, right? Which sounds so like intense, like termination, right? Right, with therapy. But it is important, like jokes aside, to have that transition back out in, out of the therapy space and kind of out into your life without that support. And we took that seriously in the app too, to say, okay, what have you learned? Like, let's review. What have you learned?
yeah.
What's your biggest takeaway? What did you learn and start out strong with, and maybe get a little loosey goosey with as you went along the right? Because that's just natural, normal human thing. Here we are mid January. How many people have already given up on we're recording this mid How many people have given up on the resolutions already, right? So tighten some things back up, and right. And so we felt that was important before folks disengage from the app. But the good thing is like the app's always there.
Yeah.
It's
It's
not
always
going.
there. They can always come back and read something. And I think the whole idea with therapy overall is that we provide clients with strategies for long term. It's not only for now. And it's best if they don't come back in like brackets, let's say, because
Yeah.
they're better and they don't need. I think always
Yeah.
my supervisors say, like, if they're lost and they don't call me back, I would suggest that they're better.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you have like a loyal client that's
Yeah.
usually going to you.
Yeah. I always say a couple things. So I always say my job is to put myself out of a job, one client at a time, right? Um, but I just had, and I don't know what it was, but three clients just this month, just the beginning of the year, want to come back for what I've affectionately started calling continuing education,
Yeah.
right? Right? Because again, we've said it, life, parenting, relationships, all that is hard, right? So sometimes it's so great when we've built a rapport and a connection, and then people feel safe, like, oh, like I need to come in for a little tune up, or I need to come in to just, one session that I had the other day, the client was just like, oh, I know what you're going to tell me. I just need to hear you say it. Right. So it's like they already know what they know, but they just, again, the support is so important. And that's what we're trying to give these people through this app.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to give people.
Yeah.
Right. So a
And
little bit of you, a little bit of me, the gift of
exactly.
us. But no, really, it's the research and what we know, and the information and the education that we
Yeah.
want people
And
people through this.
with the help of people out there, we will also change it the best that it meets the needs of the users themselves. So
Yeah, yeah,
I go again like this announcement of if you need help and you need support, I will put a link whenever I put this episode with the test for depression, for symptoms of depression,
yeah.
and you can have your results and decide if you want us to help you with our program.
Right. So how that works is, right, they fill out like a little assessment, and just to get a better understanding of their symptoms, they'll get the results of that, and
Yeah,
then they'll have the option to have access to the content of the app.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And
exactly.
then the hope would be after they go through the content of the app that then they would take that same assessment at the end, and we see if it made a difference.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's you're taking assessment every 2 weeks just so
Yeah.
we know that you're on the right track or you're not, but just so
Right.
we know, and also being aware of where you started, where you're at now, and where you'll be in the future.
That's so important because this can feel like it's not getting better. But every now and then it's okay to look back and go, oh, I have made some progress. I have
Yeah,
moved. Yeah. So, but
yeah.
all
So
right,
I think we need to wrap it up, Stephanie, because I thought that we're gonna do it for 20 minutes. I don't know what happened in my
girl.
brain,
When
but
have
I
we
could know
done
better.
wrapped any conversation up in 20 minutes? But
Exactly.
yes. So,
um,
but
I thank you so much for being here with me as a friend and as a colleague, as a partner in crime. And I really believe that we're doing something better for helping people out there.
yeah.
And yeah,
All right. All right. We shall see. Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to have a conversation with you. Thanks.
okay. Bye bye.